Hi everyone, my name is Brenda Santos and I am the owner and creative director here at Menson Studios, and I am so excited to have you watch my very first YouTube tutorial. Today I'm going to walk you through how to create a Raggy Patch Cap, and I'm going to show you all the steps that you need, including the materials that you need as well as equipment and the best places that we have found to find them. So if you'll give us a second, I will show you how to go from this to this. But before we get started, if you would please do me a huge favor and subscribe to our YouTube channel, I would greatly appreciate that. Also, don't forget to hit the bell so you'll know whenever we upload new content. And we would love to invite you over to our Facebook page and join our group. It's called the Apparel Decorators Forum, and we would love to have any kind of contribution from you, ideas. This is supposed to be a sharing group, so it should be a lot of fun and will help you grow your business. So let's go ahead and get started. All right, everyone. So in order to complete your patch, you're going to need a few items. You're going to need a 100% cotton fabric. Any print will work. You're going to find this at Joann Fabrics, Hobby Lobby, any basic fabric store. And you're also going to probably find this in the quilting section. Another thing you're going to need is Osnaburg fabric. And it looks like this. It comes out on a bolt. You can cut it by the yard, and it frays really nicely, and you're going to need that for 2 layers, because total you're going to have 4 layers, but you're going to have your printed fabric, then you're going to have 2 layers of your Osnaburg, and then you're going to need a nice cutaway backing for your embroidery. Now you want to use cutaway fabric, because if you use a tearaway, when you put the adhesive on the back and apply that to your cap, it will actually, the patch will actually pull off. So speaking of adhesive, you're going to need a nice patch adhesive. We've got a roll here that we purchased from Coleman & Company. It works great. We're able to cut it down to size to adhere the patch to the cap. Of course, you're going to need a nice cap. Now you're going to want to pick a cap that has a nice rise on it. The higher the rise, the larger the patch. The shorter the rise, of course, the smaller the patch. But any cap will work as long as it will withstand going into a heat press. You're also going to need embroidery supplies. Here is a 5-inch hoop. I know they're measured usually in millimeters, but I design in inches, so it just find it easier to figure out that this is about a 5-inch hoop. Your overall design is going to be 3.5 inches. The actual stitched out part is going to be 3.25 inches, but you're going to allow about 1/4 inch all the way around to get your nice fraying like what you see here. In addition to that, you're going to need a cap press that is going to help you adhere the patch onto the cap. I don't know if you can use any other heat source, say like an iron or anything. I know it's going to be difficult to get it up under the cap to get a nice adhesion, but if you can figure it out, that is something that you can try. Okay, now let's look what it looks like to set up the actual embroidery file to have it stitch out the way we want to. So the design is a 3.25 in diameter, and then you're actually going to, when you've got your fabric, you're going to cut around about another 1/4 inch tolerance, because that's going to give you your nice frayed edges. But again, we'll go over that here in a few minutes. The border is just a basic satin stitch. And then this particular patch, we're doing WC band. And we did a satin stitch in black. And then we did just a nice satin stitch band in red. So the way this is going to stitch out in the sequence, it's going to stitch out the red border first, then it's going to stitch out band, and then it's going to go with your W and your C. The program that I'm using is the Hatch Embroidery Digitizer by Wilcom, and we like it. It's got an easier learning curve for me. I just find that I can design and digitize a lot faster. Now, once we get our design all ready to go, again, let me show you. We want to make sure that we have it at 3.25 width, 3.25 height, and then we want to make sure that our position is in the center of our hoop, right? So then what we're going to do is we're going to export our design, and then we'll head over to the embroidery machine. So now what we're going to do is we are going to hoop our fabric. Again, as I mentioned earlier, you're going to have 4 layers. You're going to have your printed cotton layer. You're going to have 2 layers of your Osnaburg fabric, and then you're going to have 1 layer of your cutaway backing. Now remember, cutaway is important because if you use tearaway and you use the patch adhesive on it, the patch is just going to pull right off the hat, and you certainly don't want that. So let's hoop it so that way we can move on to the embroidery machine. Alright, so we've got it nice and flush here, and we're going to go ahead and take that to the embroidery machine and get the design going. Stitch out about 4,600 stitches. Okay, so we're back over at the craft table. So here's how it's stitched out. Took approximately about 6 minutes to stitch. We're going to unhoop it. Okay, now here is where we just clean up these little stray fibers. Clean all of those up. Okay, so now what we're going to do is we're going to cut about 1/4 of an inch all the way around this design. You can kind of freehand it because again, when you go to fray it, it's supposed to be irregular anyway, so don't worry if it's not exactly how you think. So like for example, I went a little closer over here. We can kind of even this up just a hair to make sure that we're going to be sort of kind of even. All right, let me get this here. All right. Sorry, so we're going to trim that up just a little bit so we've got a nice little border around there. Okay. So now what we're going to do is cut away our cutaway back here, because you're not going to want this to show when this frays. Okay, so here we go. So we've got, so at this point, because I've kind of got this going, I like to get my patch adhesive. I like to cut a little square, and then I will kind of measure it. Again, you're going to want to stay within this circle. So I just cut me a piece, and you want to try to get as close to the edge as possible. It's not, like if you miss like a tiny little curve, it's not going to hurt anything, but you do definitely want to keep as much of that adhesive on the back as possible so that patch will stay nice and flat against the cap. So here's our adhesive. We're going to lay that down, and then now I'm going to show you how to fray it. Okay, now onto the fraying. So I use a nice sharp needle nose tweezers to do the fraying. And what you're going to want to do is you're basically going to just pull, if y'all can see that, the threads apart. Just pull those threads all the way to the satin stitch. Here we are with the patch. We've got the adhesive, patch adhesive, and we've got the patch. We're going to lay it here on our cap press. I'm going to hold that down, and then we're going to put a protective layer because we don't want any of that adhesive that might come up to get on our cap press. So sorry about my hand. So I'm going to go here, and we're going to press it. Now you're going to want to press according to your particular adhesive's instructions. This one's like 17 seconds, I believe. So follow directions on your actual adhesive. Now the way this works, it's got to cool a little bit so we can peel the backing, so then we can attach it to the cap. So you see the adhesive, so we're going to let that cool, but while we're doing that, we're going to grab our cap and we're going to get that ready. Okay everyone, so now we've got the patch is cooled enough to where the adhesive, the backing will come off. We're going to take the adhesive off, or I'm sorry, the backing off of the adhesive so it'll lay nice and flat. So you can see it's kind of got like a sheen to it, so you know that that adhesive is actually on your patch. Okay, so the next thing we're going to do is we're going to take our cap, see if you can see that, and we're actually going to find it where we want to place it, and we're going to use a couple pieces of heat tape. So now we're going to center that on our cap, and we're going to hold this down. I'm sorry, I'm trying to do this in the camera. So we want to make sure that that's where we want it. That looks good to me. So it's centered. I've got my heat tape. So now we're going to put it on the heat press. Okay, so now we've got it positioned where we want it. We're going to put our protective paper on top so that way it doesn't move and it doesn't get adhesive on our heat press. So we're going to go ahead and we're going to press that. Make sure that it adheres really nicely to that cap. Some of the other things that you can do is you don't have to just do circles. You can do shapes with states. You can do ovals. You can do all sorts of cool designs on these caps. And that's what makes them really unique. So here we go. Here is the pressed cap. Okay, so now one thing is, because you do have this frayed edge, you're going to want to take your heat tape. You have this frayed edge here. You're going to want to take your heat tape. Ooh, it's hot. You're going to take it off from this side and peel it, because if not, it kind of messes up your edges a little bit. So let's peel this here. All right, and then all that is left to do is to kind of fluff that up. So the last step to creating our Raggy Patch Cap is to add the accent piece here to the bill. This isn't adhered on just yet. I actually used heat tape to hold it into place. I usually will put it at an angle to give me more room. The size of this is 1 3/4 inches tall by about 1.5 inches wide. That size typically works for us, especially if we do it at an angle, because we'll have some more room. So if we're doing, like, let's say a name that's longer, you'll be able to go from here to there. Okay, we do use a flat heat press because that works better for us. We find that if we use a cap press, that it will leave a mark here somewhere along the edges, just because it has to follow that curve. So we do use a flat heat press for that. So the heat press that we use is a Stahl's Hottronics. We really like it. It's fairly new to us. We've had it for about 6 or 7 months, and we're really glad we made that investment. Okay, just like we did before, we're going to get a protective paper, but I wanted to show you this. I'm actually going to turn the camera just a little bit so you can see how we do that. So I lay it here, and we will put that paper like that. It's a little bit of finagling, but once you get it, it's really great. So let's get that here. So you're gonna put your heat press down. So then once you have your cap done, you pull it out, you take the heat tape off, and you're all set. So you basically will fluff up your design just like we did on the other, and you are good to go. So that is your finished Raggy Cap. Well, I hope you enjoyed our tutorial, and I hope you learned a lot. So please don't forget to go to our channel and subscribe, and also hit that bell so that way you know whenever we upload new videos. And go over to Facebook and join us on our forum. All right, see you next time.